Hi, this is Eva for Once Upon a Timeline. Welcome, everybody. So let's see who's in. Mark, jumping ship. I don't know what it's message retracted. I don't know if you said some words that YouTube retracted or you guys retracted it, but I wasn't doing it. That was for the chit chat early on when I wasn't here yet. JoJo's, Bill Knight, Chanty Moody. Well, kind of quiet today. Shari D is in. Welcome. Moonlit Illusion. Janice Windsor. DD74. Little Itty Bitty Pity Show. Silver E55. Leah Broadwater. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I got my notification up a little bit late. Thirsty Boy is in. So I don't know if it went out or not, but there you go. Okay, so what's that thumbnail thing? Apparently they've got these iridescent snakes now. They are called rainbow boa. So if you look, like, iridescence isn't just like color, and I looked for all the color snakes, like not, well, I don't know, it was like a year ago, I guess, but there was no iridescent snakes at that time. It's another jump in the iridescence. Everything's iridescent now. So, Brazilian rainbow boa. The other thing I saw was they're saying that boas give live birth. Old timeline, all the snakes were egg layers. So I'm assuming they're saying that the egg hatches inside the snake. But, yeah, so these things are really cool. Very neat looking. There's some that are kind of like red colored too, although I didn't get a good picture of the iridescence on those. So that's new for me. I was totally looking for all the weird colored snakes before. There were no iridescent ones. I think these are kind of new. I haven't really seen much on them. There's not a lot of photos of these. Where would you even get the genetics to have the iridescence? That's the thing. Some of these crossbreeding is like, oh, they just crossbred some weird color morphs and stuff, but how do you crossbreed in like iridescence? That's an interesting one. Okay, so that's the thumbnail. I had spiders last week, so I had to have snakes this week, of course. But I don't have any more spiders scheduled, so I'll give you that. All right, so let's see. I should probably start with a little chit-chat about what's going on in the world. So they're starting more lockdowns here. QP's in. Welcome, welcome. So this whole, oh, the cases are up thing, and even though, as I showed you, the hospital is still at 66%, the same as it's been for months and months and months, that the cases are up. So now no in-restaurant dining. Now I've noticed they've switched their little storyline again. So I covered last week that the CDC says that asymptomatic spread is rare and wasn't found in the actual contact tracing very much. They weren't real specific on like how rare, so I'm wondering if it might be like never, but because when they don't give you like numbers and they're vague, sometimes it's interesting. Also, no cases have ever been discovered that were picked up from surfaces. So the whole surfaces thing and the whole asymptomatic phobia thing turned out to be a false alarm, apparently. But, it's still on the news every day. And so it's pretty interesting because, like, half the experts have, like, well, I wouldn't say half, but some of the experts have figured out the latest, and now they know that the asymptomatic thing is not happening, but a lot of the other experts haven't heard, and they're still saying, oh my God, asymptomatic spread. So those two have reversed. So now we have another reversal, is that the new storyline apparently is that staying inside is dangerous, which makes me laugh because when they started the lockdown, it was like, stay inside, stay inside. And there was all these, Karens on various places saying, stay inside. And even people just going outside for a walk. I mean, like a coworker of mine got read the riot act by her neighbor because she wasn't inside the house. So, futuristic, $10. Thank you. So that was interesting because they had said that you could get, in your own car. All she was doing was walking outside of her house and getting in her car, and her neighbor ragged on her. What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so now they're saying inside is where it spreads and outside is where it's safe. So they're closing down inside stuff, but they're leaving outside stuff. So they've closed down in restaurant dining, but they have not closed down gymnasiums. And I'm hoping my pickleball stay open because it's outside. But so I'm just waiting for them to say that, like, the lockdowns caused the sickness. I mean, are we going to get to that? Because I don't know. So that's like, how many times are they going to flip-flop on this? Okay, so they were saying before it's not airborne spread, and now what if it's airborne spread? It could spread 30 feet. So I don't really get how it could be like, if it could spread airborne by 30 feet, but yet you can't get it off surfaces. It seems to me like if it could spread on the air, shouldn't you be able to get it from the surfaces? And there's actually like no actual evidence that it's airborne, other than they're just saying, well, there's just too much spreading, so it must be airborne because of super spreaders or whatever. I don't know. There's no real evidence for it being airborne, but suddenly it's airborne, and then it'll go 30 feet. So it just seems like another bunch of hooey, because there's like no evidence for it. I mean, and they said, 300 scientists signed a thing. I'm like, well, where's your evidence? I don't get how you're a scientist and you could push something and there's no evidence. Okay, so anyway, there's that. A governor of California has banned singing in the churches. You can go to church, but even though that's indoors, I don't know if the Trump thing is rattled his hide, but he's not banning churches, but you can't sing when you're in a church. Oh no, even if you have a mask on. So I'm like, what? So it's just like the endless little pity rules just won't stop. All right, so blah blah blah. That's all of that. So yeah, anyway, I'm just waiting for now that we've must stay inside, don't stay inside. That's the latest flip flop. I just think there's going to be more and more of these reversals. They can't possibly screw up this bad by accident that everything they say, they then completely reverse it. Staying did it worse by creating pockets of people with weakened immunity. Yeah, there definitely could be, I wouldn't even say just the staying inside. I would say the fear and stress would probably be the number one thing that causes immunity problems. Just constant nervousness, fear. Staying inside could contribute to that if it's something you really hate and you're scared while you're doing it. No spiders. I'm good after getting kissed on my leg by a brown recluse and having a bloody nose 3 weeks ago. Yeah, there's no spiders on today, so you'll be happy. You just get the snakes. Why ban singing in a church makes little sense. The story is that when you open your mouth and you vigorously, I don't know, the vigorous breathing apparently is supposed to blast more germs. I mean, like, they've got a mask on, so I don't really get that. So it's just like another volley in the endless, obnoxious little stupid rules. Anyway, I don't know. It's just like face palm on this stuff, because it's just like, I don't know. I read, the hospitals could get overwhelmed. Well, I mean, that's the case every day of the year. Something could happen. But if you have not seen the actual bed counts go up more than 1%, which is normal variation for the last few months, I do not see how that is accurate reporting. It's just not. I know a couple of people that got positive test results last week. They are fine and don't have any symptoms. Yep. I'm like, The thing is, do we even know anything about this test or its accuracy? I mean, maybe there's a whole lot of other coronaviruses. Have they tested it to make sure that it gets just the one coronavirus? Maybe anybody who's gotten anywhere near a coronavirus of any type will test positive. It doesn't look like, from what I can see, that they were very specific about isolating this virus. Air can hurt you too. Some people say not to worry about the air. Some people never had experience with the air. Don't be addicted to air now. Yeah, well, I mean, Shari, I don't know. I mean, I would guess that the test is crap, but, it hasn't been tested. I'm very suspicious of the test. I won't say that I know the test is crap. It might very accurately test for the coronavirus, and the coronavirus just may not be a big whoop, so I don't know. There are several permutations of the test. Oh, yeah, that's another thing I have heard. Broadnet's caster has brought up. I have heard some mumbling about some of the tests being less accurate than others. I have yet to actually hear about accuracy of any of the tests, but I seem to recall there were some officials up saying something about, well, we don't want these inaccurate tests. Do they even know what the other tests were? How accurate were they? I've heard that mumbling, but I haven't seen any actual evidence of any of that stuff. There are over 140 different tests with 50% accuracy, apparently, Kat Moore. Do you have any data on this? Where did this 50% come from? Because I've been hearing this bandied about the internet, but not one single person has been able to provide me with any tests on the tests. So how do we know it's 50% accuracy, or is it just, rumor mill? So some people are addicted to air. They can't breathe and live with it. I know, it's a terrible addiction. There's no gold standard for the sea. They have not identified it. Yeah, there's a lot of, they locked down Australia again. Yeah, I've heard that, yeah. So anyways, I'm hoping they'll stick with the indoor stuff. But yeah, it sucks. Futuristic $10 again. Thank you. Very much appreciate that. So it was 15 for you, I think, total. Or no, it's like 20 something. So appreciate that. It's, the second baloney is /wave is they're starting early with it. I thought maybe we would have another month or so of freedom, but actually it makes sense when I think about it, because people were just getting excited about getting freedom, and then they yanked it away. It's like it's the most obnoxious thing when you're like, you almost got your clutches. You're this close, and then you get it yanked away. So they didn't even let you enjoy it for that long. I can't believe I was in a hot zone. Still don't know anyone who knows anyone who got it. Where were you at when you were in the hot zone? Hold on a sec. I just dropped my pen. Back. All right. I think all the respiratory distress is from the iron oxide in the atmosphere. I know 2 people who died, not old or sick. So what did they, so they got what, some kind of respiratory thing? Because, most states, the death rate's not up. So I don't know what's going on. Why would it be like way up in a couple states, but the others, no? And even Washington, D.C., the overall death rate is not up. Yeah, I don't know anybody who. You still meant to stay in your house, but the inside causes it. It's not you being alone, but being inside a building with other people. Yeah, you know what, though? There was a whole thing where they were saying that you shouldn't lock down with other people, because if you have it, you'll spread to other people, and it's better to go outside because then it doesn't spread. That was like 2 months ago's one. So, you can't keep up with these stories. That's why they were saying in New York, like, more people who locked down got it more. And I've got to research a bit more, but there's some stuff floating around in the internet that it shows the curves of the sea, and then some of them were dropping, some were flat, and some were going up. And then right at the lockdowns of that location, it shot up. So some of them are even trending down, and then right at the lockdown, it shot up. So what I wanted to check was to make sure that they weren't cherry picking, because say if they looked at 100 places, they would find some that it shot up right after they locked down or not. But there's definitely a bunch of places that looked really good until they locked down. And there's a bunch of places who did not lock down and never had a problem, like Japan. And Florida too. I mean, they keep saying that Florida is going to have all these problems because they let spring break happen, and they didn't lock down that much and all that yammer, and they are still really doing fine, flatline as far as all cause deaths. Hong Kong is doing fine. There's a couple other weird little places that are doing fine. Oh, that's the other thing. Both tested and died, and I wonder if they put them on vents, because vents are killing a lot of people. And since you can't go in there, once you get a positive C test, if you have any problems breathing, they were slapping people straight on vents, which has been found to basically kill you really fast. The Quick is in. Welcome. So I do think that might account for at least some of the spike in deaths in New York. I certainly can't say it's all of them, but if they were putting everybody in vents right away, which turned out to be quite deadly, and it sounds like a lot of the nurses were afraid to even go in those rooms. There was some cases of nursing home people being abandoned because people are so scared of the C. If they thought it was just the flu, then they'll be like, so what if I get the flu? I'll be fine. But since they're so scared of the C, then they don't want to treat these people. So I'm just wondering how much that's really contributed to it. Did Japan not test anyone? Japan did some testing. They just haven't had any high deaths. They are testing, but I mean their death rate's normal. And you got to think about Japan. There are a lot of old people there too. So most of the states in the United States, I would say 2/3 of them do not have an unusually high death rate this year. Is Dark Wolf in? Dark Wolf steps in and bows. Hello, all. All right. So, anyways, I am going to get on to the Mandelas. Okay, this is not... I think this is a Mandela. Okay, you know what? I'm going to start with the soccer ball one. Hey, Dark Wolf, how you doing? Bubonic plague in China. That was an old ME of mine that I have covered in the past. I don't remember there being any bubonic plague anywhere. It was like extinct. There was just something from the past. And quite a number of plagues I discovered in the last couple of years are still here in this timeline. The NHS in England send letters out stating that the children have been randomly chosen. On the letter states "you die" in Latin. What? Catmore, I'm confused. NHS, you die. All right, I'm going to check that out before I get that other stuff. Let me just look at what you said again. Children randomly chosen. All right, that should be enough to find it. I'm not finding it. Sick children dying at home. I'm going to just click on that one and see, but I'm a little confused on that one with this NHS thing. Oh, children randomly chosen to be tested. Sick children with C dying at home as parents told not to take them to the hospital. Sick children with C are dying because parents are scared to take them to the hospital. Some parents say they have been told to keep their children at home by NHS, which follows government advice not to attend medical centers if you have coronavirus symptoms. Well, I mean, like 99% of kids that have it will recover. So, I don't know. Sounds like more fear porn. Okay, so children randomly selected to get tested by NHS. So, what's the you die part? Oh, somebody gave me money. Dum, dum, dum. Dark Wolf's Den, $10. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm going to probably be buying a new computer pretty soon anyways. This one's kind of sucks. Children are being picked at random to take the C test. They take a swab at home. Kids are picked at random. We have no objections to them. We hope you have no objections to them taking part. Of course, if they come up positive, then you and your whole family will have to get quarantined. And we don't know how accurate the tests are. I have heard rumors, and I really wish I was able to verify if this is true or not, but I am hearing rumors that some hospitals are nurses are sending in, the swab that they stick in your nose to test for the C, and then you send that swab out to get to the testing facility. What they're doing is they're just taking the swab and sending it without sticking it anywhere, and it's still coming back positive. That is the rumor I've heard. I can't really verify, but I did cover that there was an article a few months ago where the C tests themselves were really found to be contaminated with the C, and so they were recalled, which was highly suspicious. I mean, how does C get all over the tests? I mean, you would think that they would be created in a sterile environment, not just because of the C, but any germs. So that's weird. So yeah, basically they were sending in these giant swabs without sticking it in anybody's noses and still coming back positive. So I don't know. It's very suspicious. I wish I was a nurse so I could try that. The study will help the government approach to COVID-19 testing. We have chosen your child at random. Participation is completely voluntary. The test may show whether your child has the C. I don't know. What's the part where it says you die, though? I didn't get that part. Curious now. Bit of Venom gave 11. I believe those are pounds. Thank you very much. They're pretty close to dollars, if I am right. At random, like a lottery. Yeah, so apparently it is at random. I'm not taking it until I know what's going on. I mean, if there's some reason why I could start trusting it, but right now I don't know if the test is accurate. I don't know anything. You don't even know if there's germs on that swab at this point. Okay, so anyway, back to the Mandela land. If that was true, Shari, I mean, if there's germs on the swab, that one set of tests was returned. It was actually bound for the UK, too. And then they had to recall it. Now, how did they figure out it was contaminated to start with? How did the contamination get on there? So supposedly that was just that one batch, but I mean, what if there were others like that? I don't know, That means they're actually, and I don't know if they've contaminated it, then it could be self-fulfilling prophecy because you tested positive and then later you get sick, it's why should anybody take the test? I'm not taking it because I don't know I don't trust it. And luckily, I don't work for others, so I'll probably be at least a last on the list for taking it. I was forced to take the test, or I would lose my job. Yeah, I know, I know. That's what I'm worried about. I'm way more worried about the vaccine than the test, though. Goat and papaya is still funny of being tested. Yeah, yeah. That's a. That was it. That got was it not Tanzania, right? Wasn't it the president of Tanzania sent in um, swabs of a goat and a papaya, and it came back positive. So that's another instance why there's suspicion, I think, cast on these tests. Very much so. But I'm not taking it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tanzania. Yeah. So there's the Tanzania thing. Then there was that batch of ones that was found to be contaminated, and then there's the rumor mill about these swabs. There's enough evidence to be suspicious. I mean, it is not like 100%, but there's definitely some suspicion there. And I would really like, if anybody actually sees any tests on the tests, please let me know. Euro has double stripes. The double stripes are gone. Okay. I thought the euro, was it the euro? There was another money Mandela, and it was one of the European monies was missing its double lines too. You do a blood test, but not the swab. The only time they could force me to do the test is when I need to renew my passport or visa. Yeah. Yeah, I really should try to get some of that stuff done now before there's a bunch of rules and stuff. Um, Something to think about. I might have just accidentally neglected to fill out my census this year, too. I don't know how I managed to do that, but just to be on the safe side. English pound. Oh, okay, it's pounds. Pounds and. Yeah, it's the pound, right? Last I checked, it was kind of close to the dollar. How does that skew the numbers for? Oh, yeah, that's a good point. If they keep testing the same person over and over and there's false positives, then sooner or later you're going to get a positive. Used to be always two lines. Yeah, money was, and there was I know for sure that US dollar was two lines. Always was. Okay, so now to some Mandelas. Have you guys heard of this thing where this all right, we've discussed some shuttle Challenger Emmys in the past. I don't think they were really strong Emmys because it was little detail stuff that most people didn't really pay attention to. But does anybody remember a soccer ball surviving the Challenger explosion? And this really reminds me of like the 9/11 thing where they school. So apparently they were able to bring a lot of crap up there, including a soccer ball and a football, a lotus flower, and all this other junk was recovered. I don't know, the lotus flower would have had to have been in a bag or something, otherwise it would have sunk. So you saw that explosion. It seems a little suspicious to me that a soccer ball survived, not to mention all this other plather. So the story is that they I'm also kind of curious why it looks so scungy because I don't know, did it just get old because it was sitting, maybe it was sitting for 30 years or something, but so supposedly they brought it back up to the ISS for a while, and this is a photo of it. Now, when I first saw that, it really looks like it's outside the ship or whatever the heck that is, the station or whatever they're calling it. But no, then I read other places it sounds more like it was inside. I don't know. It looks like a really bad Photoshop the way it's just. See, look, it avoids all of the clouds and everything, and it just I don't know. I'm a little suspicious about that. But anyway, I've never heard of that. I've never heard of this. Has anybody heard of this soccer ball that survived the Challenger? Because you would think that would be big news back then. Never heard of it. Yep, nobody heard of it. I was caught in a temporary time loop, really? I could only laugh when I read the article about the ball. This was actually on Quantum of Conscious was talking about it. He didn't talk about it as an ME, but he didn't really seem to have heard of it before. The soccer ball's in bad shape. Yeah, it sounds like though, it was supposedly sitting in this in the gym in a window for like 30 years. So I guess it would get scungy. I don't know. So what happened with did I freeze or something? I don't remember that. Ah, preliminal. Yes, 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 yes. I've covered that before. The Columbia did not explode for me. For me, what happened was that the tiles were bad shape and they were really afraid it would explode coming back down, but it didn't. But it was such a close call and they didn't really have a tile solution. They didn't want to use the existing system because that was almost disaster, and so they still ended the program. But it didn't explode. They made it for me. I remember it, thought it was weird at the time. So Bipolar Truth remembers the soccer ball. Did look like it was outside though, like the glass would fuzz it up. Yeah, I don't know. It just I was a I read about the ball when I was doing some research about the explosion some 3, 4 years ago. Yeah, it could definitely have been an older ME. So I froze for like 2 minutes, huh? Did you guys miss anything? Oh, I just buffered. Okay. Um it just seems to me like that would have been huge news that they found this soccer ball after all that. I remember the tiles being the culprit of the explosion. Yeah, I actually haven't. I assume it's still the tiles. What took down the Columbia anyway? Uh, Columbia explode. I mean, I saw a whole documentary where they had this whole drama thing, and they went over it, and it totally sounded like it was going to explode. Of course, I knew it didn't because, I knew that the Columbia hadn't exploded. But watching the documentary was like, it was really exciting because they, the way they did it in documentary anyway, they really made it sound like, the chances of survival were like close to nothing, and then somehow they made it down. And as a kind of a scientific minded person, it stuck in my mind because I'm like, well, how, if the tiles were all gone and the tiles are required for reentry, then they were mostly gone in all the important places. Then how did they make it? Oh yeah, that's right. It was that piece of foam fell from the shuttle's external tank and breached the spacecraft wing. Yeah, that's right. Last time I checked, that was the story. Oh wait, no, 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 no. Last time I checked, I'm pretty sure it was that the foam broke off the tiles, though. Okay, so it's not tiles anymore. Tiles had nothing to do with it now. I'm pretty sure last time I checked, there was still a tile issue. That like the foam had cracked the tiles or something, and that caused them to come off. Well, tech is better backwards in time, so maybe now there's plenty of good tile tech in the current timeline, so there had to be some other problem. But yes, it was tiles. I'm 100% positive it was tiles because of that documentary, which was so like it was a really good documentary. Foam, huh? Piece of foam fell. Several people with NASA pushed to get pictures of the breached wing. So yeah, anyway, so that story's morphing. I'm pretty sure it still said tiles last I checked. Breach the spacecraft wing. That's kind of a vague statement, though. So what did it breach? Tiles? But tiles are not in the word. The tiles are not used now in any of these sentences. The tire pressure readings from the left side of the shuttle also vanished. Breach the wing. That's such a vague statement. It was later found that a hole on the left wing allowed atmospheric gases to bleed into the shuttle as it went through its fiery re-entry, leading to the loss of sensors. Yeah, I don't remember that part of the story last I checked. Pretty sure it was still tiles at that point. I do not remember there being a hole. God, it's just so weird to see these morph like this. You know, I'm not a real good numbers person, so I don't remember the dates that well. I just don't remember when it's exploded. Let's see, challenge. When would it? When is it now? When did the Challenger explode now? Challenger. 1984. 86. I'm trying to think what age I was, because I was in a certain class when it exploded. So now I'm trying to remember what year I took that class. So we were in speech and debate, and we had stepped out in the hall to work on our speeches or something. Like there was a splitting up of groups, and my group was outside, and then we were called back in by the teacher and informed that the shuttle had exploded. So it had to happen on that when I was in that class. I don't think it could have happened in 84 for me, because I don't think I was in that class that year. I wouldn't swear to it, but it's unlikely. You're 100% positively negative. The O-ring was on takeout, the tiles on re-entry. The O-ring thingy was the Challenger one, and then the Columbus explosion in this timeline, last I checked, was the tiles. In my timeline, it was almost exploded because of the tiles. I remember it being before 86 because I was in a class in high school and we watched it. I graduated in 85. Yeah, see, that's one way you can pin these things down. Yeah, if you know you were in high school when you learned. But unfortunately, there was a number of years I could have taken that class. Maybe if I can dig out my old high school transcripts, I can see when I took that class. The tile damaged by foam and craft broke up on re-entry. Okay, so according to this, though, it sounded more like it breached and allowed air in. It didn't say heating up on that article. So the word tile has been removed from the storyline in that article, and I have not seen that before. So this might be morphing, and I'm just wondering if in the current timeline we've got better technology. This is one I wasn't really going to cover, but it's kind of related. It's just more of that interesting tech. Roman cement. It's I think Rondale. So, oops, somebody gave me money. Ding dong, ding dong. It's not even showing yet. Oh, there it is. $3 from Futuristic. Thank you very much. Very much appreciate it. Okay, so this is a little bit older ME. There's two of these that have the same name, and I am very suspicious about the choice on this business. Okay, so there's Roman cement. There's Roman cement and Roman concrete. I think that they're basically two different things that both have the same name that are both Mandelas for me. So some time ago, maybe 10 years ago, I started hearing about this Roman concrete that they had built like this concrete structures out into the ocean and like docks and everything, and survived all these years, 100 years. This concrete's still there, and it was some kind of special concrete they had, and nobody really understood it, and it's all amazing because even our current stuff won't survive like that. Okay, so that was the first one that I heard of. And then I heard just recently of this another one called Roman cement, and it's another stuff, and it's this stuff that. Okay, so that's the Roman concrete is the original one. Let me see if I can remember the. I'm trying to remember the name, and there's two versions of this. It's another kind of cement that they supposedly put on the facades of these 19th century buildings that everybody's saying is, related to Tartaria. Well, not everybody, but darn. See, I forgot the name now. And it's also called Roman cement or Rondale, I think it was. Let me see if it's Roman concrete. Nope, Roman concrete is the same as Roman cement. Okay, here it is. Why modern mortar crumbles, but Roman concrete lasts. Nope, that's still the Roman ones. This is what I get for being unprepared. There it is, Roman cement mortars. Dum dum dum. Found it. All right, so if you look at these buildings that they are, I'll show you one that I figured out is near here. So originally, I thought that when I first started hearing of the mud floods, and they were saying that it was like buildings from the 18 something, so it's 1900, so 1850s or whatever. And I'm like, well, darn, we don't have any buildings that old in San Diego, so I can't really check them for mud floodiness. But then I started kind of tracking and following it more, and they're saying that they think that some of the buildings that are said to have been made in the 19th century may have actually been pre-existing Tartarian buildings that we just claimed as our own. And they have a certain look to them, and that's that kind of really fancy facade work type of deal. And then I'm like, dong, we have that here, and it's called Balboa Park, and they have these beautiful buildings that were supposedly made for like the Panama exhibition of 1915. It's a heck of a lot of fancy hoopla to be building for like one exhibition. So here they are, some of the fancies. Balboa Park has a lot of them. I've been to Balboa Park a number of times. I'm going to have to go back there and look. So we have all these totally studliferous buildings here in San Diego from our beautiful park. The amount of fanciferousness on these is very impressive. So the Tartarian rumor mill theory, whatever it is that these buildings were actually built by some other culture, perhaps the Tartarians, missing in the 1,000 years of missing time or whatever. I don't know. It's a fun theory, and there are some interesting things to be found. So the theory is that these are somehow got abandoned, and then we took them over and just claimed that we built them. This one, hopefully this one will get big. So this is an example of one of the Balboa Park ones. And so why do these hold up? They're like 100 years old or something. And if you do like this kind of fancy facade work now, it's not going to last 100 years. So what I found just recently is there's this stuff called this Roman cement, which is not the same Roman cement as the ones that the Romans used. And why in the hell are they calling it Roman cement then? Very interesting coincidence. So it's some kind of other cement that was used in the 19th century, which would be 18 something something, that would last way better than current cement, and was like easier in a whole lot of ways, and was just in general way more reliable. But the only thing is that it took a little bit longer to set up, and it doesn't set up as hard as the Portland cement that we use today. And what was very suspicious about this story is that supposedly the recipe for Roman cement was lost. I mean, supposedly thousands and thousands and thousands of buildings all over Europe and the United States and all over the world were made with this Roman cement. All these fancy buildings, these older fancy buildings, were made with this. So all of this stuff in Balboa Park and all over the country, all of this supposedly were made with this Roman cement, and that's why they're in good shape. But nobody knows the recipe. Like, it was completely lost. And they had to hire people to try to replicate the recipe. And who knows if they even accomplished it completely. So, I mean, what is the odds that there's got to be a piece of paper somewhere with the freaking recipe on it? I mean, this is another very suspicious one here that I'm going to look into this one, but so something is fishy that they don't have the recipe for, like, that was used on millions of buildings, millions and millions of buildings, including Balboa Park. So Balboa Park, most of these fancy buildings were supposedly built in 1914, around there, for this Panama exhibition. And about half of them were built and then torn down not long after too, which, I mean, ones that look like this, ridiculously fancy ones. It's very suspicious. So the rumor thing is, what if we didn't really build these? And there's a lot of these that went up, and then like 20, 30 years, they were torn down. And it just seems like a whole heck of a fancy building to just rip down in 20, 30 years. Now, if we had just found these and, say, spiffied them up, and maybe they had a lot of structural damage because they were old and abandoned for a long time, and then we had to tear them down because we couldn't fix them because they were just, too mangled, and they were actually 100 or 200 years old, then it would make sense that they came down, fairly quickly. But so there is that argument. So anyway, Roman cement apparently is on all of this stuff. Special cement that we lost the recipe to, that was used all over the world for like almost every building ever for 100 years. We lost the recipe. Sounds a little suspicious. It's all right. So what's the deal with Roman cement? I really got to study a little more on cements. The most significant feature of Roman cement mortars is a wide range of differently calcined clinker relics within each mortar. These unreactive particles, classified as being either overtired or underfired, obviously play an important role for the mortar properties. All right, it's way too complicated for me, but supposedly they used some kind of it's a hydraulic natural cement. Roman or natural cement was a major material in the architecture of the 19th century Europe. However, its use declined. Okay, this one is going to be like in English that I can understand. Let's see. Highly hydraulic binders, known as natural or Roman cements, were key materials for the economic and easy manufacture of stuccos for the exterior of buildings during the 19th and 20th centuries. Roman cements were produced by burning naturally occurring deposits of calcium carbonate rich in clay minerals. They were distinguished from other hydraulic binders principally by a very short setting time, agreeable texture and color, little shrinkage on setting, and excellent weather resistance. First produced in England in 1796, the material is obtained by firing clay-bearing calcareous nodules found in the London clay beds in the Isle of Sheppey. Despite implied links to the Roman binders, Parker's Roman cement was a true hydraulic cement, very different from the hydraulic binders used by the Romans, in which pozzolanic materials, not cementitious in themselves, and combined with lime in the presence of water, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so they're like, oh, it's totally different than those other Roman ones from Rome. So the story then is that, and I can't really get why, but they were saying somehow we just decided Portland cement was better. That it wasn't just in that one UK location that they dug for Roman cement, though. They also had one in America. I think it was called Rondale cement or something like that. And supposedly they finally figured out how to recreate that, and so you can get it now. See, here it is, Roman concrete recipe lost. Very suspicious. I mean, really, they know who invented it and everything, but we don't have it. And it can't be that complicated. Mort means death. Yeah, well, plaster Paris, dead man's boots. It's one theory that these pyramids are made by cement too. It kind of, they look like crap in this timeline, so who knows? Can't they get the recipe from the buildings? Apparently they can kind of tell what's in it, but not exactly how they, yeah, I know. Basically, that's what they were trying to do, but they had to spend like $2 million to figure it out. Is the basic thing. And they might not have known where some of that stuff came from, like where did it get dug from? So anyway, yeah, one of these days I'm going to try to get back to Balboa. It's really not that far. I'm so busy all the time. And check out some of this stuff. I'm kind of wondering if maybe, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if it turns out that we just built those and it's not that big a deal. But I'm going to sniff around and see if I can see anything weird about any of this architecture. And one of the ones I was looking at is this one. Because this Spreckles organ pavilion was supposedly made around the same time. And you can see it has a certain look to it. See if I can find a big one. No, that's not it. Anyway, you can kind of tell. So what's fishy about this one, though, is that there's kind of a promenade thing, and this is really big. There's like the world's biggest outdoor organ in this. So they can roll up this door, and then the organ, they play the organ, and then everybody sits around here. So there's this like kind of a promenade thing, or like a covered walkway thing that connects. And then you go out to these end pieces. And the end pieces really don't look like this thing. This one's kind of got kind of a modern design to it, kind of. But they were all supposed to be done in the 1915 about. The other thing when I was looking at this is it really does look to me kind of like one of those triumphant arches, which you see all over in the old architecture. So I almost wonder if it was like kind of a refurbished triumphant arch. See, it looks a lot like a triumphal arch. You can open. So it looks a lot like one of these. And there's a bunch of these even all over Balboa Park, in fact. And some of them don't have the big space on the top. Some are like smaller on the, some of them are thin at the top. Unfortunately, when I just click on one, it gives me all the similar ones. So these triumphal arches are all over the place, and people kind of suspect them of maybe being like the Tartarian era's thing. I'm not really sure what to make of this whole Tartarian thing. Here's another really old one here. So you could kind of see how this has a similar look, maybe just a little more pointy on the top. But what's weird about this one is that this kind of shows you how this is actually quite big. You've got this thing in the front, but it doesn't really match this on the side. It's like a different style. And this style here matches most of what's in the park, which they're calling it, I think, Spanish colonial. But then this front doesn't match it, but then this looks like a whole nother thing. And even though it's supposedly built all at the same time, these end pieces don't really match this thing. So I'm wondering if this was like a triumphal arch that got like refurbished to be the Spreckles Organ Pavilion by like closing off the back and making the arch into like a door. And then they would have to kind of remodel it a little. And so that would be why it doesn't match these end pieces. If this was originally a triumphal arch, it may well have matched these end pieces. So I'm going to try to dig up a photo of the end pieces. Okay, so this is the end piece here, and you can see the style is rather different. Hopefully I can find a more accurate example of those end pieces. So if you're making like a centerpiece building, and then you're having the walkways go around, and you're making two little end piece little buildings, wouldn't you make the end piece? So here's the end pieces. It looks way more fancy, which is kind of suspicious. You would think you'd put some of this fancy on this thing, but it just doesn't really look like that. I mean, they're a whole different style. They're supposed to have been built all at once to be matching, but this doesn't look like this. And the other end has one like this also. It doesn't. I'm like, I guess it's possible that the architect was just a whack job, but they don't look like, they're barely matching to me. I don't get it. Like this piece here kind of matches here, but the whole front doesn't. And this is like really simple, and this is like super fancy, 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 with all of this grid work and stuff. So I'm wondering if this has just been reworked to be this, and that's why it doesn't match. When I was looking in the history, there was a kind of a vague thing, because it said so and so gifted the pavilion to the city for such and such amount of money. And there's no real photos of the construction of it. There is one really old photo, and it looks kind of mangy right after it was supposedly. See if I can find that old photo. Doink. Okay, here's one of the old photos, which is too darn small. Here, let's try this one. So this is supposedly 2014. Then it would have to be the very last day, because supposedly it was ready to roll for the end of 2014, December 31st. Okay, so look, it looks like hell in a handbasket here. It's got all this weird crap on it. It's 2014, and repeatedly I see like there looks like a piece is missing out right here of this trim work. And there's like 3-4 photos that show trim work damage right here and all of this schmah. So I don't know. And there's a photo from like a year after the expo opened that still shows all this schmaz. So that one, you can kind of see that there's something awry still on there. I don't know if you can see it, but here's a close-up that shows. So anyways, originally, apparently it was dark walls and lighter trim, had damage here, and the walls were all scungy. Uh, and then you compare to this looks really old. I don't know. There's just something wrong with the whole storyline. So there may be something suspicious here. I mean, I don't know if that proves that there's like a whole race of Tatarians and a 1,000-year missing history, but it is very fishy. I think the Romans probably found these buildings and everything points to them. I don't know. It might be different in different timelines. I'm just going to keep my eye open on that because first there was mud floods and it just talked about flood, and they did talk about missing time at first, and now all of a sudden there's 1,000 years missing time, which just happens to correspond to the 1,000 years of peace, and the devil might have hid those 1,000 years, and maybe we're heading into the 1,000 years of peace again. So the whole thing is like really expanded since I first heard of mud floods. And there's people online claiming that they've been studying mud floods for years and years and years. And I'm like, no, mud floods just came out like a year ago for me. And I had looked up everything I could, and this one guy with this, the mud fossils kind of started it. But now there's all this old mud flood stuff. Do you know about the safe at Balboa Park? No. Okay, now I got to look at that. The safe. I've been to Balboa Park and it was just beautiful, and I have often wondered, um, is it safe? Is it safe? Safe for females? Safe barking? Um, Unfortunately, that word might be a bit too common. I don't think I can look it up. Have been noticing new ancient features that tie together most ancient culture. Yes, and there's so many more beautiful new old buildings now too. And I've mentioned before that last week about how Palace of Fine Arts is changing. I wish that I had visited Balboa Park more because I am not sure I would notice changes. There's probably changes there, but I don't think I knew it well enough to really notice that. The reason I can notice the Palace of Fine Arts changes is I went there so many times as a child. Turmeric changed back to turmeric. Aha, flip flop for you. For me, it was always turmeric. And now it's turmeric, so a straight ME for me. So yeah, I don't know about the safe at Balboa Park. Let me know because it does not look like it'll be easy to Google that. Pangea is hard to miss at certain projections anymore. Yeah, I've talked about that before. It really looks like Africa and South America would like slot right in. Okay, so anyways, yes. Off on a giant tangent. All right, this one. Okay, so I'm kind of like out of it today. I'm like all stumbly on my words, so I apologize. What do you remember Popeye's outfit? Popeye the sailor, the cartoon. What is his outfit? What colors are they? And anybody on Retcon who saw that, then you're not out of the question because you already know the answer. And no peeking. You have to go by memory. What do you remember for Popeye's outfit? This was an interesting one because I quizzed one of my friends on it, and he remembered certain colors. And then I said, well, it's not that now. And before I even brought it up, what the real colors were, suddenly he looks up, he gets the download, merp, 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 and then he knows the current colors, and he goes, oh no, wait, it's blah and blah, and he got the current colors. But the thing that's interesting is he got the download. I never told him what the current colors were, and he was outside, so he wasn't googling it or anything. So these downloads are pretty impressive because they basically can download the exact colors into your brain. So the first colors he said are the colors I remember, and then the second colors he said were the real colors that are there now. And so all I had to do was say, oh, it's not that. And then he got the download. So it was pretty freaking creepy. Like, he knows the colors. Then he said, oh, no, I just remembered. And you can't even argue with him because I didn't even tell him those colors. All right, so you didn't say what you remember, Shari. Daniel Steele is back to Steele. Wait, I thought I thought Steele had an E on it. What's Daniel Steele doing now? Danielle, wait. Oh, I thought last I checked, I thought it was Daniel Steele with an E. Wasn't that? Yeah. Wasn't that the ME that it had an E on it? And now it's back to normal Steele. That's interesting. Okay, so that's a flip flop for me then. I do remember it having an E for a while. Was white, white with blue. That's what I remember, white with blue. Chanty remembers the same as me. Black top, white and red, blue trousers. White main color. Yeah, yeah. White was the main color with blue trim. White and blue, bipolar truth. White sailor shirt. Yeah, because that was the traditional colors with blue trim. Yeah, okay, so you guys remember. Yeah, the Bluto Bruno, that's the older ME from like a year ago or something. It's Pluto, it's Bluto instead of Pluto now. White with blue trim. Okay, so Broadnets remembers the E. So for you, it's a straight ME, Daniel Steele. Out of the blue, I thought yesterday it's good to search for a Nikon P900, and my husband came home saying, isn't it nice to buy a good zooming camera? Yeah, it seems like intuition is up because I've been having some car trouble, but the mechanic thought it was just a little bitty thing, and he thought he would have it all fixed today. But just just while that was going on, I'm like, I think it's time I buy a new vehicle because, it just feels like suddenly we've gotten to the point where I'm going to have a lot of trouble with my car. And even though it was just at that time, I just thought it was a water pump, which is not a big whoop. I was like, I really should just buy a new car. It's got like 240,000 miles on it, so that might be part of it. But just suddenly, I'm like, usually I'm just going to sit on it until it dies, but then I'm like, no, maybe I should just hunt now. And then I find out it probably has a cracked head, so it wasn't just water. So I probably much have to buy a new car now, very likely. Who's Bluto? That's the enemy of Popeye right now. His name is Bluto, which is a Mandela. Maybe they changed it. No, no, they don't have any new Popeyes. They're Oh, you mean Daniel Steele? I don't know. I don't know which one we're talking about now. So anyway, Popeye. Now what was that color again? I'm actually having trouble remembering the new color because the old memory is still really strong. So now he has black, um, a black shirt with red trim and then blue sleeves and blue pants and a yellow belt. Um, Interestingly, there's this one which there's apparently a few old ones where he has white, but he has just this black, um, but not the blue that I remember. So for me, he just had, and I don't remember this like this. I remember the blue being here on the like on the collar as being the blue. I don't remember this I don't know, tie thing at all. There was some kind of a gather thing here that, and it was blue along here, but I don't remember there being this particular tie thing. So like if this was white and then this was blue here, this collar, that would be about right for me. And like that was all of them. So now like 99% of them is this black with this red stuff. Now, last I checked, when I typed this in, there was some pretty good residual, but now I'm not seeing it. Let me see if I can. That's interesting because last I typed in Popeye just a few days ago. There was quite a bit of white with blue stuff in here. Let me just see. Let me just check tattoos. So this is pretty big Emmy for me. It was definitely white with blue. I mean, this is probably one of those Emmys that would have kind of whapped me upside the head when I first learned of the Mandela, because it's a very strong one. Dang, I'm not getting much residual even. Dang, you know, I just ran into residual by accident several days ago. I don't know, are these shifts happening faster? I've never had residual disappear this fast. Oh, wow. There was only a few that had white and blue, and they didn't have the blue in the right places. Dang, look at this. There's like none. Okay, this one is close. Popeye the Sailor PNG, without all that red. I don't remember that blue pants. I think it was white pants. So yeah, I mean, look at it. It's just not there. The blue is gone, except for the pants now. There's some white, but then it's paired with black. All the residual that I found by accident falling out of the sky is gone now. Let's try one last costume. I'm actually shocked at how fast this residual is drying up. Look, nothing in costumes. Jesus. I'm going to try one more thing. I actually didn't even hunt that much residual because there was so much. I'm like, oh, it'll just show up on a Google just that easy. Look at that. It's almost all gone already. There's like none. This is the ones, the closest I can find is blue with white, but it was white with blue, and he did not have these yellow things. buttons, that would be the word. I'm kind of incoherent today for some reason. I am feeling a lot better. Like last week, I felt really tired, like totally out of it. They're getting better at fixing the rifts. I don't know. I think things are just going faster. It's kind of, I mean, you might be right, but that's just my feel on it. He's totally, I know, he's dressed totally different. Yeah, no yellow belt, no red trim. I agree with that. Blue kerchief. I don't remember it tied like that, though. It was different. Popeye, like Uncle Sam, was red scarf, white shift, blue pants. I don't remember any red scarf for me. Yeah, never, no black. It was white. He was all white. Just a little bit of blue, this and that. So yeah, that was found by Will Work for Answers, user on Retcon. So Will Work for Answers finds a lot of stuff. So very good find there. As far as I can tell, it hasn't been in any of the other channels too, so. In the movie with actual humans, what is he wearing? Okay, well, let's see. Popeye live action movie. I didn't see that movie. I'm trying to remember even. Oh, there. This is much better. Interesting. That is much better. There. Yeah, that is a lot more like how I remember it. White with blue. I never saw that movie. That's why I was like, good point. Yes, so much better. See, there's no buttons either, so that's actually a lot better. I guess they'll all say that we're confabulating with this movie, but I've never seen it. So, yep. Good idea. That's the second person with black shirt change. First was Maria in Sound of Music. White turning darker like feathers in a forest. Yeah, but then Darth Vader is getting more and more blingy blangy non-darkness. I haven't looked at Darth for a while. See if he's grown any more colors. Nothing real obvious. These like originally I didn't have all these colored lights and stuff. This has changed a lot. I'm not sure if they're really supposed to be green. So he's gotten a bunch of gray on him and then some colored lights. The easiest way is sometimes to check the toys because the toys will highlight the colors more obviously. Die of old age at this rate. Oh, that one's interesting because it looks like the pants have gotten gray on that one. So there's the gray stripes here, but those pants. Unless it's just one of the newer episodes. I need to keep an eye on those pants. See, some of that even looks a little bit strangely grayish. I keep thinking we're going to get more lightning on Darth. Oh, you know what? I think there's a change in those chest plates a little bit, too. See how the chest plates are now? Those gray stripes were just straight gray stripes before, but now they've got this curvies, and this one is thinner, and each one of these stripes on the chest plate up here is different now, each of the gray stripes. There was nothing like that before on any of the toys. Yeah, so we've got more patterning up here. Look at that. Dum dum dum. So that is, this kid highlights it nicely with his jacket. So they were very just slightly gray when they first came in. You can see it on these also. Anyway, the pants look fishy on some of these, so keep your eye open on that. White pants and not red at all. Yeah, that's what I remember. White pants, white shirt, blue highlights on the collar. The meaty flesh between the thumb and forefinger. Oh, yeah. It does seem like there's a bit less there. Okay, so another one from Redcon. How do you spell Wedgewood? You guys from the UK should know how to spell Wedgewood. No peeking. This one is from user timey-wimey2 on Redcon. Kind of an easy one. And kind of a weird story today. This morning, I think it was, I saw a grasshopper. I'm pretty sure it was a grasshopper. The bottom portion of his back legs were screaming iridescent turquoise, just screaming. And it was a very dark guy, and but then he had these screaming turquoise legs. Never saw anything like that in this area. As the typical grasshoppers now, it had wings and it flies really well. So my old timeline didn't have jumping flyers. I mean, what's the point of jumping if you could fly? So this guy, he jumped and then he flew. So I tried to get a photo of him, but he was just too quick for me. Probably true. Wouldn't you think that tattoos would get an update? You know, all we have is images of tattoos online. I've never heard of any of the Mandela people having a tattoo of a Mandela and then letting us know if it changed. All right. Wedgewood. You know, my mom collected Wedgewood. I have Wedgewood. I know how to spell Wedgewood. And I spell it the same as T-Box, Cat Moore, Bit of Venom. Yeah, Wedgewood from the UK. QB also remembers the same as I. Bit of Venom's mom collected Wedgewood. Exactly. It's a collector's item. I wouldn't expect everybody to know it, but there's a lot of collectors of Wedgewood. Bill Knight, Wedgewood has had different factory spellings. You know what? We've had people on the chat on Redcon who said that they're Wedgewood in there. I've only ever seen the one Wedgewood with the E. Let's look and see. And everybody's collector's stuff has all changed. Oops, you know what? That's not the stuff we're looking for. We need the collector. Wedgewood collector. So Etsy has the new spelling. I put the E in, but I'm getting altered by Etsy or by Google to not have the E. So the new spelling does not have an E, basically. The Wedgewood lady. Dun, dun, dun. Let's look at some images. It looks even weirder when you see it in the originals. So this is how you spell it. And for that person who said that there's been different factory spellings, give me a link because I didn't really find anything like that. All right, so come on. This is the spelling now. It's Wedgwood. We've had other E's disappear. Smoky Mountains E disappeared. I'm trying to think. There was a couple other weird E's, kind of a similar flavor, have disappeared. This one actually looks really strange to me. So timey-wimey 2, good find. So people who collect Wedgwood, that has a newer Wedgwood with a Wedgwood box, even their box changed. My oldest just showed me and told me last night Robin Williams was Popeye in a movie, and I said no way, and now you're all talking about it. Dun dun dun. Yeah, you know, the coincidences just keep ramping up. Wedgwood is the other spelling, but it was on older pieces and rarer. You know what? The people who bought new Wedgwood, their brand new boxes do not have an E on them. There was a couple photos up on Recon. Oh, Judgment. That's it, Bit of Venom. Good. That's it. Yes. Judgment had the weird E disappeared. You know, I've gotten used to the new one in Judgment, but the Wedgwood one still looks weird. Gotta go. David Cook, thanks for coming by. So anyway, if you want to tell me that there was, basically, if I type it into Google now, I typed in Wedgwood with the E, and I got corrected to the no E. So good luck finding the E one now. I don't think it's there. Wedgwood. I'm gonna try to find it by overriding Google's. See, look, I type in with the E, and all I get is no E. Oh, I didn't know. Look, I'm not finding it. Even with the E in there. I am not finding the E anywhere. So that factory spelling thing, I'm not falling for it because it's not coming up with an E anywhere. Oh, here. This one has it. So for sales stuff, there still, remember, some of the sales people, this auction, new in box. So this is the brand new one. This is a new box, new in box as of April 28, 2019 in this Manchester auction. This person spelled it with an E, but here's the box, no E, new in box. So they're fairly new. And this is similar look to what we saw other people posting. There's no more E on any of it as far as I can tell. If you're going to say that that was spelled different ways in the factory, that might have been like mid-shift. Mid-vintage Wedgwood, Jasper Collectors Society. Let's see what that one looks like. All right, there's not... One thing it's easy about collecting Wedgwood is it's... I'm going to see if I can expand that. Yellow is hurting my brain. WEDG. Yep, no E. The E is gone. It is gone. And that's vintage. So yeah, no, it's gone. I do remember Cagney and Lacey without the E. I'll agree with you on that one. So, Bill Knight, you might have caught it mid-shift there, interestingly, if that was the story you had for a while. I've never heard of it without the E, though, for myself. All right, so got that one, got that one, got that one. Another thing, I don't know if you guys noticed, the moon is very bright, but for me, it's also gotten even smaller. Like it's super tiny. When it's in the middle of the sky, it's so tiny now. And the other thing, I think I've mentioned this, but you know that optical illusion or whatever they call it, that they can't explain why, where the moon looks really big when it's down by the horizon, by like the mountains or near trees, it looks really big. And then as it gets away by itself, it looks smaller. Now, I've always had that illusion when I was growing up, but the difference was not as big. So it would just look like 30% larger when it was down by the mountains, and then, you know, a little smaller when it got. But now it looks like 3 times larger when it's down by the mountains, and it looks really tiny when it's up in the middle of the sky. So that's kind of an ME for me. Whatever causes that illusion, which they say they don't know, is a lot stronger here. Okay. I'll save that one for last. Okay, I've only got 2 more. I don't really have a million of them today. So this one was found by Bill White, commenter on the channel. Good find. So the whole story about Area 51. I've covered a few changes, like I didn't remember the whole Groom Lake thing. And when Groom Lake first showed up, I thought it was a different location. That wasn't Area 51. So what Bill White noticed, which is interesting, not sure if this is a Mandela, but it sure smells like one. Area 51 was supposedly built in 1955 to test U-2 spy planes. But that whole Roswell incident happened years later. So, no, it happened years before. So if Roswell happened years before, and then people thought that they took it to the Air Force base, but the Air Force base wasn't built yet, then that makes no sense, right? So even if you want to say, well, oh, I don't trust the government to be honest about when they built it, shouldn't people at least have been discussing that? I've never heard anybody ever talk about that discrepancy. Mm-hmm. 1955 at Paradise Ranch. Anyway, I looked that up before. Built 1955. So when was Roswell? I think I wrote it down in here. Okay, Roswell was 1947. So 8 years before Area 51 was built, people thought that they took the wreckage to Area 51. So it doesn't really make any sense, does it? And the other things I saw when I was looking up the Area 51 that I've never heard of before, and I was just looking at this like 6 months ago, there's some kind of story about Papoose Lake underground facilities 8.5 miles south of Area 51. I've never heard of this Papoose Lake story, but the S4 location, I've never heard of the S4 location. So like the whole storyline is, I'm going to have to like read through it all because it's shifted. So, and then there's supposed to be a disappearing airstrip nicknamed Cheshire Airstrip. so it just like disappears underground or something. And that is like in the old lore now. It's not new. So I've never heard of that. Um, and the other change I noticed is in my old timeline when the debris was first found, the military at first admitted it was a UFO. They said UFO, and that went out in the newspaper, and they used that word, and then they later said, "Oh no, wait, it wasn't." But in this timeline, they only admitted it was a flying disc. They never admitted it was a UFO. In my timeline, they said UFO. So last I checked, which was 2 days ago now, they only admit it was a flying disc, which is not nearly as exciting, really, as a UFO, because I don't know. Anyway, they used that word, UFO, in my old timeline. They didn't use it here, currently. So, Area 51 is Groom Lake right now. I didn't have the Groom Lake thing originally. So when I heard of Groom Lake, I thought it was a different place, but it's Area 51. But there is this other thing in the lore now called Papoose Lake, which is 8.5 miles south. I've never heard of Papoose Lake, but apparently it's old lore here. Never heard of it. Didn't hear of it last time. S4 is Papoose Lake. I think I've heard a couple mumbles about the S4 location the last few months, though. So maybe that was the start of that. Yeah, Cheshire Cat. And there's also the Cheshire Airstrip now, which is old lore for Area 51. No, it says Area 51 was built in 1955, not Roswell. Because Roswell is not near Area 51 now. Don't get confused, because for me, they used to be like right there by each other, but try not to get confused. That might be a better word. Cheshire Lake sounds familiar. It's Cheshire Airstrip. It's like this airstrip that disappears. Roswell Wreckage went to Andrews Air Force Base. Oh, it didn't go to Area 51. Why do we care about Area 51, though? For me, it went to Area 51. I guess it would have to go to Andrews if Area 51 wasn't up. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah, Groom Lake, I guess it's supposed to be a dry salt lake bed or something. It wasn't in my original timeline. So when I first heard the word Groom Lake, I assumed it was a second location. I didn't realize for years that it was actually Area 51 Mandela affecting into a new layout because I didn't know about the Mandela back then. So it's an old change for me. Okay, so that's second to the last. This is another one that I think I would have heard about, and it kind of fits in with the tech back in time. We've talked about the weird battery cars that now supposedly preceded the Model Ts that we remember just the regular engines, but now apparently batteries preceded those. So batteries, that's basically the subject of the hour. So apparently there's a battery that was made 176 years ago and is still operating. I think I would have heard about that one. It's pretty cool. It makes sense with this timeline, is I guess what you could say. But so nobody knows what's in the battery. I mean, you'd think that they would, I don't know, do some scans on it or something. But so this little thing bounces between these two bells and rings them very lightly. This little ball thing, and it's on a string, and it's run by these batteries that nobody knows how they work exactly. We know it's something called a dry pile battery, a precursor to the modern dry cell battery that gains some of its longevity from using the smallest amount of liquid possible to sustain the chemical reaction needed to generate power. The paste and discs of metal that constitute this battery live in the two pipes above each bell, which form the terminal of the battery, with the voltage between them moving the metallic clapper that bounces between the bells. The only way we'll find out what is inside for sure of these batteries is when they die, and then they open them up and find out what's inside. So I don't know why they just don't open the freaking things, but I guess this is a timeline for that. The battery was created in 1825, just 25 years after modern battery was invented. So I guess they're saying the modern battery was invented in 1800 now. I have to say that I didn't know when it was invented, but I'm very suspicious that it was invented that early. I don't think so. Let's see how many times I can drop my pen here. Now, let's see if, they don't have a full picture of them. I want to show you the battery, though. So yeah, so we have a battery. It's been ringing this little poobah here has been ringing these bells for 176 years. And if this was written in 2016, I guess that would make it 180 years. Hopefully my computer has not given up the ghost here. All right, that's a little bit better image of it. So these things here are the battery, and somehow, I'm not a battery expert, so I'm not going to explain it very well, but they operate that little thing on a string that's down here that I showed you the close-up of, that little ball, and it bounces between these two bells and rings them, and it has been doing so for 180 years. Nobody knows exactly what's inside these battery things, which these candlestick-looking things apparently are the two battery parts. There, that kind of shows it better. So it's some kind of a dry pile battery. The physics are different here, so I've been saying for a long time, even before I knew the Mandela, that one thing that's really holding back society is the efficiency of batteries. We need to be able to store power better. And one way we've gotten around the inefficiency of batteries is we've managed to create computers and stuff that use less power, so we don't need as much battery. And batteries have improved. I'm not saying they haven't, but we really, imagine what you could do if you could have something like your wall plug-in in a little battery and carry it around and be able to, run your hairdryer off of it for a long time and stuff like that. We don't really have anything that's super efficient like that yet. And I think if we do, we'll have some amazing stuff. So this is kind of planting in your idea, in your head, that batteries could be way more efficient. And just even with this old tech, we just have to find the magic solution. I think it will come. That's going to be something that we're going to need for the new era, to be more like Star Trek, basically. But I'll be skipping the vaccine and the transhumanism. Thank you. I can plan to keep my electronics outside of my body as tools where they belong. Physics keeps changing. The way light and energy in general behave are not nailed down. Well, it's definitely not nailed down in this timeline. I remember Worcester sauce. You know what? I do remember Worcester sauce. Now that you mention it. Yeah, it's Worcestershire sauce, but I do remember Worcester sauce. That's a good find, HV. I do remember that. Worcester sauce. Let me see, do they still call it that? At all? I spelled sauce wrong. There's genius. Worcester sauce. You're right. I totally remember it being called Worcester sauce. And that's why it wasn't complicated to say, because there wasn't that extra syllable on there. Worcestershire. Yeah, that's a good find. I haven't heard anybody mention that. Worcester sauce pronunciation. Wait, where's the H? Yeah, it's missing the H. Worcestershire has no H now. It's Worcestershire. Look, it's Worcestershire. You found an ME and I found an ME for your ME. It's Worcestershire now. I'm pretty sure there was an H in there. Worcestershire. Images. We got a close up here. Oh, look, there's Worcester sauce. French fries. That's the closest we got. But see, it's still Worcester on that one. Worcestershire. Yeah. So it's gone from Worcester sauce to Worcestershire. Checking my spelling. Yes. Yeah, I do remember that H. Yep, I concur. Virginia coast changed. Norfolk and Newport News, and the location of Los Angeles went south. I want to say that Sacramento went north, but I think that the top half of California might have flopped down, and that might have been a lot of it. Washington State. Is Worcestershire in the UK or US? You know, I'm finding it. All right, let me see. Spelling. How is Worcester sauce pronounced? Don't pronounce the first R. Worcester? There is some residual for Worcester, so I can't swear it's an ME, but it is suspicious because I'd never heard of. Now that you mention it, the first time I heard Worcestershire was probably just a few years ago. Correct spelling for Worcester sauce. It's not very useful. So there is a little bit of the without the shire on it. Worcestershire. 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 Is that how you say it in UK? That's sure it's not how we say it here. Worcestershire. Was. Tough. Worcester. Worcestershire. Worcestershire. Yeah. Worcester. Yeah, huh. I don't know on that one, but it is suspicious. I agree. Worcester now. No, I think now is Worcestershire. Worcestershire. In fact, every came up on my phone keyboard. Predict. Worcester in Boston. Worcester. Anyway, I don't remember the Shire part. That's the point. Worcester. Virginia's been steadily morphing. I think most of the states have. Worcester is a town in England and in the U.S. and a couple of places. Places. I'm a little spacey today. I'm sorry. Lowry's to Lowry's. You talk about that Lowry seasoned salt. Ooh, I think it may have always been LAW for me. That really looks better for me. Lowry's seasoned salt. Lowry's. Now I can't remember anything. We'll just let images. Lowry's. I'm not sure on that one. Yeah, can't say for sure. Worcester sauce. Check out the South Park with the scientist hooked to the sauce. I use dictation and let it spell it, and it adds to Shire when you say it. It was said different when the spelling had an H. Worcestershire. See, now this spelling, if you pronounce it Worcestershire, then you could have either one of those in there. You could either have the Shire or not. Worcester. That pronunciation is so weird. There could be like 500 different spellings. Worcester. Anyways, I think I might try to get to bed in a timely fashion today since I'm done. Thank you for the Worcestershire sauce tutorial. If soy sauce changes to SOI, I'm gonna freak. You know, I don't think I'd freak out as much as I freaked out when the moon showed up in the daylight for the first time. That was a very weird experience. And a whole continent's gone called Arctica. So if they change the spelling of soy sauce, you know, they'll probably just slip it in there and go, "Oh, there's always been two spellings," and everybody will go, "Yeah, yeah." It won't even be a big deal because we've seen weirder stuff than that. We really have. All right, guys. Thanks for the help. Got some new MEs, a lot of commenter stuff, some stuff from Redcon. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it very much. think good thoughts, everyone. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.